And of course, Bass Lake was our friend Bob Erickson Pinky when he had his Pink Panther year. Another shot of Reid at a Rose Parade event. Some friends there at the luncheon in Hawaii, uh, most likely during a district convention. Might have been an international convention. Some more Hawaii pictures. District convention that obviously looked like it was also from Bob Erickson. And this was Reid's year as governor, 1997, 1998, served from the heart. And that certainly was Reid's credo on life. And, he always showed heart in everything that he did. Here's his Bass Lake training for his lieutenant governors way back when we used to do that at Bass Lake. A few little antics during the Bass Lake training. Another visit, probably sometime just before one of our district conventions with Pete, Diane, Shirley Vildeville. This was the initial meeting of the Rose Float Club when it came into existence in year 2000. Bob Erickson, Wayne Hoff, and of course Reid and Kathy there. The pictures. Reno District Convention with Yoli McLeland and Jane McDonald. Retirement party for Bob Erickson. And these are reunion for Reid's lieutenant governors, the Running Rebels. Got another picture of those people. And international presidents lunches. Of course, Reid was always there for those lunches. This with International President Nelson Tucker and with Elva. There's George Francis in the background there. 2007, Reid was the Rose Float Club president. And this was a picture that we put in the division directory as president of the Rose Float Club. This is another International President's Luncheon with Dave Curry. Oscar Knight is there with his wife Gladys. Again, Dave Curry again. Reid was always active in our Pasadena Student Awards program. He was always helpful for the district foundation and international foundations and making donations towards scholarships. This was our Pasadena program where we provided payments to some of the students from our local Pasadena schools. And he has a scholarship in his name for our Pasadena Foundation for a PCC Circle K member each year. Another one in the district convention with Karen and Ted Gibbs, Reid and Kathy. Brian Cunett, an international convention. Don Kennedy, who played a very important role in Reid's 90th birthday party. We'll see a little later. He was very supportive of Rosemary's Children's Services. Made a lot of donations to that program, and I believe he was probably on the board from time to time. Here he is for the dedication of the library. There's a Christmas party attended there. And this is also for Rosemary's Children's Services. Another award from Rosemary's Children's Services. This is at a Star Chefs event. It was a fundraiser for Rosemary's Children's Services. That's just some of the committee members that were also worked with him for Rosemary's. So as you can see, he had a lot of different connections with different groups, and Rosemary's was certainly one of the ones that he had a lot of time. We did receive some letters from past international presidents on his birthday, and this is one from Paul Palazzolo. This came from Sylvester Neal, who couldn't be there at the event, but wanted to share his thoughts about Reid and how he'd help him, and always remembered him in conjunction with the Kiwanis Rose Float Project and the Rose Parade. This is from Alan Penn on recognizing Reid on his 90th birthday. And of course, Reid and Kathy. And that was the slides I prepared for it. Now we have another group of slides that we'll get to next, but now we're going to give people a chance to talk. Let me go up the list here and see who we have first. I believe it's Dick Olmsted. So if I can find him here.
Here.
Are you unmuted? All right, Dick, you're up. We'll give you your time to tell about your relationship with Reid Allen.
Well, thank you. I think some of you on this call knew Reid before I did. I first met him, I guess, when I moved to California in 1980. I didn't really meet him. I knew who he was, because who could not know Reid when you heard him talk at convention? Booming voice, it never needed a mic. But in 1996, I was Lieutenant Governor-elect, and you can see I have Reid's Rebels red jacket on. We had an infantry red jacket, and we became Reid's Rebels. And I was honored to serve with Reid as governor in 97, 98. Reid and Kathy didn't have any children, and they adopted all of us. And there wasn't a holiday that went by, Father's Day, Mother's Day, birthdays, Christmas, that Reid didn't call or send a note, and just had a heart of gold. I mean, we served from the heart that year, and we were Reid's family. And Reid became like a second father to me, always supportive. While we were lieutenant governors, when I decided to run, I went on the foundation board, supported me there, supported me as governor-elect and governor, and certainly has supported me on my Kiwanis International ventures. I'm going to miss the conversations that I've had with Reid over the years. They were often and always lively. Reid had a heart of gold, and he wouldn't hurt a flea, but he would certainly tell you how you felt when you got to become friends with him. And I considered Reid not only a friend, but as I stated, a second father. I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss the calls. And the class of 97, 98 had a great governor, and we miss him. Thank you.
All right. Next on the list, we want to try to keep it to around 3 minutes so everybody gets a chance. There'll be other times where you get a chance. The next in the chat list is Pat Fulton. Pat, you'll unmute. You can say some words.
Okay. The very first time I met Reid was the very first time I met another person that's also on this call, and that was Margot Dutton. I first met both of them at the Rose Pavilion at Phoenix during Rose Float decorating. And he was sitting there in his little wheelie, and he was just so enthusiastic, and I was so impressed with him. And Margot was standing not too far away, giving her directions and her orders. After that, I interacted with Reid at Kiwanis Division 10 meetings, and he was also very not only inspirational, but when he talked to our service leadership students, our lieutenant governors, and sometimes they needed some corrections in what they were doing, he would not do it in a punitive way. He would do it in a positive, growing way. And they walked away from those conversations stronger people. That is what I will really miss about Reid. Am I sure that all of you meet, interact with him on that level? He's intertwined so many people's lives in Kiwanis and made me who I am today, helped make me who I am today, as well as a lot of us in our Kiwanis adventure and in our life venture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Pete Horton, you're up next.
Well, I first met Reid in 1985 at Bass Lake. He and I served on the Black Sheep team together with Governor Howard Dahl. So we have a few years of history between us. And then after I became the executive director of the district, Reid was my third full-term governor. And so Diane and I had just numerous opportunities to be together with Reid and Kathy, and they were just nothing short of a delightful couple. We so much enjoyed our time with them and share so many wonderful memories of both Reid and Kathy. The comments all already been made, but I have to say, no theme was ever a better fit for a governor. Serve from the heart. It defined Reid. Everything he did from the heart. And during this past week, the foundation has had a fundraiser in Reid's memory. And I've had an opportunity to chat with many of you on this call after I sent you a little thank you note, and we exchanged some emails back and forth. And so I've heard from some of you about your experiences with Reid and what he meant to you. And that has just brightened my week and brightened my memory of Reid. And the last thought I'll add is after Reid was governor and the Rose Float, of course, was now had come into being, I can't imagine a better advocate for the Rose Float. Every letter that Reid would write to Kiwanis International, to the trustees, to the president, I was CC'd on. So I got to see just how passionate that man was about the Rose Float. And there was never a better advocate. Reid, buddy, we'll miss you, but we know you're happy. Thanks, Craig.
Hi, Pete. All right, next up is Rocky Barsati. Rocky, if you'll unmute.
Thank you, Craig. Great job so far during this presentation, seeing everybody and seeing so many familiar faces and so many ones that we have lost is tremendous. As far as Reid, the first thing I can say about Reid is you always knew when he was in the room because he had that one voice that was above everyone else. And I know I first heard the voice in the late 90s when I was kind of a trailing spouse in Kiwanis with Patty, and then at Bass Lake. What an awesome, awesome man at Bass Lake. And I would like to say, during my year as Lieutenant Governor under Mark McDonald, our theme that year, of course, was the year of the dash. And when you think about the dash on a tombstone, it's not about when you were born or when you pass away, but it's about the time spent during that dash and how many people you affect during that time. And my goodness gracious, Reid Allen was infectious. He affected everybody positively. He made a difference, and I truly miss him. I know during my year as governor, I called him every month to make sure I could touch base with him. And he just always was so very positive. And I know when Patty was elected as governor-elect, he talked to me and he said, "Will you be running after her?" I laughed and I said, "No, never. First off, I can't fill her shoes. And I do not want to take that position." Well, listen, every time I saw Reid, he kept asking me the same question: when are you going to run for governor? Well, obviously, I finally gave in, and I'm glad I did that. And I'm so glad that Reid Allen was part of my life and Patty's life and in Kiwanis. A wonderful gentleman. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Rocky. Karen Drew, if you like to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, Reid was my second father as well. He was my sponsor into Kiwanis in 1997. And it was just after I joined Citizens Business Bank. And everywhere Reid went, I followed, whether it was the Rose Float Club, I was his banker, Rosemary Children's Services. He had me join the board, and later I was the president of the board there. You name it, wherever he went, I went. and he was a very generous, loving, kind man, not just in Kiwanis, but everywhere he touched. And he touched a lot of people. And he was a consummate letter writer. And I had even letters sent to my dad when he was on his deathbed by Reid, sending my dad praise about his daughter and the good job that he did. And it really lifted my dad's spirits before he died. He sent letters to my employers, the chairman of the board of the bank. He was my number one fan, and I know he was everyone else's number one fan as well. And I just remember and cherish all the conversations that we had when he came and walked into the bank, and there was a lot of interconnection there. He's also Mr. Pasadena. All the elected officials knew Reid, and he was his own cheerleading session, bringing everybody along with him. And I'll miss him. I'll miss the love that he showed to me, my husband, when I'm remarried, my children, and just everyone in the community. He really, even though Kathy and Reid never had children, they loved children. And they loved being updated on my kids and all the kids. And he was always thrilled when he saw the Key Club members and Circle K people coming around. His face would light up. And I'm going to miss Christmas time with Reid. We always shared Christmas plants back and forth with each other, and cards and letters. And he was just my dad.
Thank you, Karen. All right, next up is Margot Dutton.
Thank you, Craig, for giving me a moment. I had the pleasure of meeting Reid in 1994. It was right after I moved here from Tucson, Arizona. And someone in my Kiwanis Club, the Kiwanis Club in Northridge, recommended that I check out the Rose Float. So I showed up to a meeting, and the rest is history with Reid, because as Rocky stated, Rocky and I were lieutenant governors together. Even before I was club president, I think Reid was, when are you going to be a president? When are you going to be a president? When are you going to be lieutenant governor? When are you going to be lieutenant governor? And he encouraged every person he knew to be the very best that they could be. And I will miss him greatly. I had the pleasure of working with him for over 20 years out at the float site. And an amazing man, and he will be missed greatly.
Thank you, Margot. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to do some more slides. And then we'll have another break where we'll have a chance for some other people to speak. But now it's up to Patty Barsati. Are you there, Patty?
I'm there. Sorry, I didn't unmute. Okay. Thank you very much, Craig. This is very nice. I love the pictures and everything. I'm going to be very brief. There's really not much more I can add that has already been spoken about for people who were closer to Reid, honestly. But I just want to say, as a past governor of this district, and before I was even governor, Reid was the kind of governor and leader that I looked up to, and I really wanted to make him proud as a governor or anything that I did in Kiwanis. He just had that kind of a spirit to me or an image to me. He was the best, one of the very best. So anyway, I'm very sad that he's gone, and I know his memory will live on. And I'm glad that I was part of, and you arranged, I think Pete arranged the scholarship in his name. I think that's a wonderful idea. So Pete, that was great too. So anyway, I just know he's going to be very missed.
Thank you, Patty. All right, we're going to move to the next set of slides. This is actually the day of the event on his 90th birthday party. We had a very large and important group of people that attended his 90th birthday, and we'll go through these pretty fast because I think there's quite a few pictures here we're going to be sharing. And again, it was at the University Club where we had the event. As I said, Reid had friends in a lot of different areas, and a lot of those showed up to his 90th birthday. A lot of them I had never met before. There's Howard Dell. He was governor when Reid was lieutenant governor. This is just a list of some of the VIPs that were at his 90th birthday party. Past International President Bob Moore, Steve Siemens, Nelson Tucker, Don Kennedy, and district governors that were in attendance, past district governors Wayne Hoff, Bob Erickson, Nelson Tucker, of course, Reid was there, Patty Barsati, Dick Olmsted, Alan Geyer, and Rocky Barsati. So we had well represented from some of the higher officers of Kiwanis. This is the dining room where we had the main event here with slideshow going on the side. This is George Filardo. He was our president that year, so he was the master of ceremonies and kept things going on track. Of course, Jimmy Weldon did the flag salute for that event. Reid and Jimmy were very close. I guess, and Dick says he still fits in that same coat from back when he was a lieutenant governor. Of course, Bob Erickson had a few humorous things to say about Reid. There's Bob Moore and Steve Siemens and Howard Dahl. He was also had some of his antics that day. And he presented Reid and Kathy with their own set of ears. And Karen had a very nice letter that she wrote to Reid and dedicated to him at that event. It was very emotional and very heartwarming. And of course, Pete has to get his 10 cents in, so he got up and had some things to say about Pete at the event to Reid. And Reid had got a chance to talk a little bit too. And it was Reid's birthday, but he decided he wanted to give rather than receive, so he presented Kathy with a gift at his birthday party. Now, the one thing that Reid didn't know was going to happen was a presentation you'll see it here in a moment with past international president, retired General Don Kennedy. Leading up to the event, we were talking and working on getting Reid his Purple Heart, which he had never received. And Chris Williams had sort of tipped me off to the fact that Reid had been trying to get this for many, many years. So working with Don Kennedy and the Congress, local congressional offices, we managed to get this put together, and Don was able to bring out the Purple Heart and present that to Reid. He had no idea this was happening, and I'm sure it probably was one of the highlights of the evening for Reid. Obviously, he was pretty emotional about getting that Purple Heart that he'd so many years had tried to get. Later, we'll have an article that was in the Star News that was written by his neighbor, Ross, and we'll present that. That was in paper not that long ago, actually. And that all about his experience in World War II on a subchaser. So he has that proudly displayed in his home. There's Jan Moore, wife of past President Bob Moore. Steve Siemens. Nelson Tucker. All talked about how, Reid had been an influence in their years. Dave Wallach had a special presentation, and this was 2013. And that was the year that Reid got to ride on the Rose Float. So Dave had the official picture of him and the other riders on the Rose Float that he presented to Reid at that event. And that was the party. Now we can move on to some more people who want to speak. The next one, if you came in late, put your name in the chat box if you want to say some words. We'll get to you eventually. The next up was Chris Cabot.
Craig, I believe Chris had to depart.
Okay. All right. Well, if he gets a chance to come back, we'll try to. All right. The next on the list is Marla Knudsen. Are you there, Marla?
I certainly am. I knew Reid through Kiwanis. I knew Kathy through PEO. And what I want to say is he was committed and loved Kiwanis, but he was more committed and more loving to Kathy. They were the most loving couple that I ever saw. I remember being at that 90th birthday dinner. I remember him giving her that ring. And every time I'd see her at a subsequent PEO meeting, I'd try to look at her hand and see what the ring looked like. He always had a smile on his face. He kept in touch with me long after I was no longer in Kiwanis. I know that he wanted to serve. He wanted to serve any way he could. And he was a bright spot in all of our lives. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Marla.
Okay. Thank you,
Marla. Now I have David Dwyer in the thing, but I couldn't find out if he wanted to speak or not. His name was in the chat, but it may have been for something else. David, did you want to make any comments? All right. If not, let's move to Jan Robertson. Jan?
This is David. I wanted to speak.
Okay. Go ahead, David.
I just couldn't get it unmuted. Yes, I served as Lieutenant Governor with Reid in 97, 98. I was very impressed and pleased with all the learning at Bass Lakes and the antics by past governors. Kept us very, very alive. The theme, the Serve from the Heart, I thought was just unbelievable. And it came with that 3-ring binder served with as big a label on it as you could possibly see. And I remember at one time they passed out the little red hearts that I found out later what you give to people who have heart surgery. But the idea was to serve from the heart and to do that. And I had a successful year as lieutenant governor. I'm in the Las Vegas district, Division 28, and one of our clubs is 60 miles away, and at that time another was 90 miles away. But I carried that motto to all of my presidents on that term, and everyone bought into it. I thought it was really, really great. And as it happened, we'd always had troubles getting people to run for lieutenant governor because of the distances. And but 6 of the 9 club lieutenant presidents went on to become almost consecutively lieutenant governors. And so we had 10 really, really good years here in Las Vegas. His love of the Rose Float carried over, and there were several times that our family or other people from the clubs here in Las Vegas would make trips down to work on the Rose Floats. We thought it was really a great event to get down there and move the flowers and stick them, and it was just great camaraderie. The thing that I remember the most is still his motto, and as we Inquanians always want to and enjoy plagiarizing from other clubs and doing things with them, which we like to give good ideas away. I personally think that motto applies today to every club, to every Kiwanian, to every lieutenant governor, and that perhaps we ought to, which I'll exalt it a little bit more, just because clubs are struggling, especially with the pandemic and the events going on, whether they be real problems or not. It's kind of holding us back, and if we remind ourselves to serve from the heart, then it takes it all off of us and puts it back where it should be with serving others. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David. Jan, do you want to say a few words?
Okay, there it is. Okay. So yeah, so I've been in Kiwanis almost 40 years now. So I was in my 30s when I joined, and one of the first women. And so, you know, they didn't know what to do with a woman. So I was everybody's secretary. So I always knew Reid because I used to follow John House around and take notes for him at meetings. And then when Bart became lieutenant governor, I wrote the news for Bart. And that's what girls did in those days. So I always knew Reid, but then when I became a club president, he started telling everybody, she's a communicator. She's a communicator. And Reid and Kathy just started inviting me to everything. And both of them were my biggest boosters. Reid would give me insurance advice. And then I got engaged to my late husband, Ron Robertson. And when we announced our engagement, Reid had won $100, split the pot, and he gave it to us as an engagement present. So that was our first engagement present. And that year, I think, or the following year, he was supposed to go to international convention in Switzerland, but he felt like he was too handicapped to deal with it. So he sent us in his place. So Reid and Kathy just always were boosting us, gave us tickets to anything that they were involved in. My husband had never had a chance to study Hebrew as a child, so I wasn't allowed to because in those days girls didn't. So we studied together. Reid and Kathy came to our B'nai Mitzvah, and our mitzvah project was raising food for the food break. So they came with a whole trunk full of food, and they just always supported us in everything we did.
Okay. Thank you, Jan. Next on the list, I have Kayla Wong. Kayla, you want to unmute?
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yep. We can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to thank Mr. Reid Allen for everything that he has done. I was part of the Circle K and PCC from 2012 to 2014, and in Circle K as well from 2015 to 2017. And throughout the years there, and along with my presidency, he has been the biggest mentor I've ever had. And I still look up to him till this day. And I strive to be like him. Has definitely created the best, I would say, place and safe place for all of us as students and as PCC Circle K members as well. And I really thank him for that. And I remember that he would always come in no matter what to our meetings, and his voice just commanded the room. And he was the best and funniest person we could ever have at our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Dan Borba, you're next.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's good to see lots of familiar faces, but it's a sad reason that we're here. But actually, it's a happy reason we're here to celebrate the life of Reid Allen. I had the opportunity to first meet Reid in 1984 when he was Lieutenant Governor-elect. And ever since I met him, no matter where I was, the distance did not matter. He would always pick up the phone, call to check in, because he was truly the man with a servant heart. He had a way of touching lives, and I always like to describe, as you toss a pedal into a still pond, you see the big splash and then the ripple effect. That was Reid's life. He had that ripple effect across not just Pasadena, not just Division 10, not just the Calaneva district, but the entire world. And I know God called him because he has a greater job to do for him and serve the Lord. Thank you for having the opportunity to meet you, Reid. God be with you.
Craig, this is Joe Moore. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Want to let you know that I believe Kathy is part of this meeting under the name of Lillian Orlana. And I think she's listening to everything we have to say.
Okay, yeah, I asked Lillian to bring her a laptop so she could share the comments with Kathy, and because she was also instrumental for Reid's 97th virtual birthday party, which we had, and she brought her laptop so Reid could hear what was going on. There's Kathy. All right. We got time for a few more. Next one is Lori Butler.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you, Lillian.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mrs. Kathy, they can hear you and they are seeing you, okay, by computer. You can say anything you want to say to Mr. Reid, okay? There is a picture of Mr. Reid and the computer and Craig Wallace's face.
Oh. Well, he was a wonderful gentleman. He could get mad, but there was always a good reason for it. And
you can see down your face. See, yeah, like this. They can see your face.
And he had always had a good word for friends. And he could get mad too. Our caregivers can tell you that. But he had a reason for it. And I don't know what I'm going to do without him. but we'll somehow manage. Maybe I'll join him.
Maybe you'll join us.
Well, maybe.
All right.
Mrs. We all love you. Okay, I'm Elna, one of your caregivers, and we all love you, and we're gonna take care of you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love all of you. You've been very kind and careful of me. And I'm grateful to you all. I don't know how I ever could repay you.
Craig, do you want me to go or
Yeah.
shall I?
Go ahead, Lori.
Well, Kathy, you've already paid us well in advance. Everything that all the folks in Kiwanis have poured out to you is just a portion of what you and Reid paid into all of our lives. When I was the first, I guess I'm still the only, well, Jennifer counts, but female executive director at Calneva. I got this letter in the mail from someone named Reid Allen, and I had no idea who he was. And the letter called me a dynamo and told me that I had big shoes to fill because they were Pete Horton's shoes. And so when Reid finally called me up, I informed him that the shoes were new and they were now high heels, and none of us wanted to see Pete Horton in high heels. And I would just always laugh about that, the joke about Pete Horton and me filling his shoes. But if I were sitting not at work, but in my office in my home in Lake Arrowhead, you would see the letter that Reid Allen put on the wall. I had that letter framed because it was so life-changing and so encouraging. If any of you have letters from Reid, I challenge you. He was an amazing person when it came to letter writing, and he always had me resupply his stationery and all of that. But I learned from Reid, and I've carried it on to really get to know somebody and speak into their lives words. And he would just always call me a dynamo. And to this day, even though he's gone, I still feel like a dynamo because of Reid. One of the other things, he had a tremendous sense of humor. And outside of the district secretary's office are topiaries. And on one side, it's a church and it says, Jesus saves. But on the other side, it says heaven or hell, ? In bushes. And Reid would call me about once a week to ask me whether I was having a heaven day or a hell day, and what were the bushes saying to me. Even after I left being district secretary, he called me, he sent me wreaths at Christmas. My children looked forward every year to getting a wreath and a box of pears from Reid. But my most fond memory that really made me laugh was when Reid was on the Rose Float that year, but they forgot to get Reid off the Rose Float. And so the Rose Float, I think it was going down Orange or Colorado to be displayed. And Gary Jander was running, chasing after the float to get Reid off of the float. It was just beautiful. And Reid said he didn't worry. He was looking forward to being displayed in the park for everyone to see as part of the float. So he always had such an incredible sense of humor. But Dan brought it up. Reid always thought, that he should support people in every way. And Reid would call me on a regular basis and pray with me. So I thank you, Dan, for reminding me what a great man of God he was. And he would always say, do everything that you do, not just in service to Kiwanis, but in service to God. And he really embodied those, the tenets of Kiwanis. I had Reid's letter on one side and the tenets of Kiwanis on the other. And his life was those tenets of Kiwanis. I'm not just saying that, they really were.
Thank you, Laurie. Next, I'd like to recognize past International President Steve Siemens.
Thank you. In our travels in Kiwanis, you meet some incredible people. I'm not going to repeat what's been said because we're all feeling the same thing. But I just want to say a couple things. I think you can tell a lot about a person by the way they love their spouse. And Kathy was loved deeply by Reid, and I always appreciated that. The second thing, every morning I write 5 notes of encouragement to people. I've done that for the last 40 years. Reid and Kathy were recipients of those notes weekly just because of his appreciation for life and his appreciation of so many people. And it was just a blessing every time I would write that note, thinking of who he was and what he had given and what he had done for people, which was a blessing. My encouragement to all of us is that we just model what he has modeled for us and live it and continue it. And we're all blessed because we knew Reid Allen. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Steve. Now we're going to move to another presentation. This is the article that was in the Star News. The author of that article is with us today, Ross Selvage. So Ross, if you'd like to share a little bit about the article, I'd be happy to get your input.
Yes, well, I guess I've lived next door to Reid and Kathy for almost 30 years. Well, 2 doors away for almost 30 years. My wife, Andriana, is right here over my shoulder. You know, when I'd go over there and talk with Reid, I was always intrigued by the photograph he had of the sub chaser, which he served on in World War II. And finally got around to getting some details of what he had, what his service had consisted of. And so I thought on the 75th anniversary of the Battle of Okinawa that I would write something up and see if I could get it out to a few more people. And so I wrote this article, and the Star News was gracious enough to publish it. It has also appeared in the this winter's newsletter of the Patrol Craft Sailors Association, and it was fun to write the article, and I think Reid and Kathy both enjoyed getting that recognition.
Thank you, Ross. And there's a picture of Reid when he was serving in the Navy and the different medals that he was awarded, including his Purple Heart there in the center position.
That photograph, by the way, was taken when he graduated from his basic Navy training at Great Lakes Naval Station. That's a real World War II sailor suit that he's wearing there, and he looked really good in it. That's cropped down from a picture of him and one of his shipmates who went through the training with him.
Yeah, that's the article talks about his, he was on this wooden sub chaser. It was attacked by a kamikaze pilot, and Reid was injured in the attack, and so he ended up spending time in the hospital and recovering from his wounds. He had some pretty severe wounds to his hands, and that was one of the reasons why we always work so hard to get Reid that Purple Heart. And again, thanks to past international president Don Kennedy, that we got that to happen. All right, next up, I've got a little bit of humor here. This was something that was provided to me by Hilding Larson from the district office. These are some excerpts from past conventions. They're short and sweet, but I think everybody will enjoy these little tidbits about Reid during his tenure in the Calneva district. Get it to play. Oh, come on.
From Division 10, Reid and Kathy Allen.
Our 1993 convention. Reid.
Thank you. Oh, little girl, oh, little girls get bigger every day. Thank heaven, oh, little girl, they grow up in the most delightful way. Those little eyes so helpless and appealing, one day will flash and send you crashing through the ceiling. Thank heaven for little girls. Thank heaven for them all, no matter where, no matter who. Without them, what would little boys do? Bonjour, ma famille Kawani. Comment ça va? Sommes-nous prêts à aller en East France? C'est le temps de nous organiser et nous préparer pour le grand.
And now, the introduction that is hardly necessary, as this man has graced our convention stage for many years, someone who has always given us an award-winning performance, the on to Las Vegas International Chairman, W. Reid Allen. Come on out, Reid.
Oh my God, he's wearing a mustache with a black hat. He always.
Hi there. Listen up, pilgrims. Name's Al. Gambling's my game. Any of you seen that slick card shark ace in the hole Gibbs? Well, I tell you, I'm looking hard for that critter. Yes, sorry, Ted. T'other night, this here feller Gibbs pulled a fast deal on me down at Borber's Saloon. When I spilled my root beer, he grabbed my sack of gold and was last seen headed for the big city on the high desert, a place called Lost Wages. Population, about 300,000. You know, one could disappear mighty quick in that kind of environment. Bright lights, pretty gals, 82,000 bunkhouses, a lot of great roadside inns where the grub is outstanding. I got a posse put together to chase down this here feller Gibbs.
For the office of Governor-elect from the Kiwanis Club of Pasadena, California, W. Reid Allen, Jr.
Good afternoon, Governor Bob, International Representative International Representative Bob Moore, guests, and fellow Kiwanians. I stand before you with pride and humility to ask for your support in my quest to serve you as governor of the California, Nevada, Hawaii District in 1997-98. I wish to share a secret with you, however. I married an angel When I married Kathy, there was an angel at my doorstep. She is behind me, for me, with me. In other words, 2,000% supportive. I speak from the heart. Kathy and I are committed to this commission, and if elected, in serving you to the best of our ability in 1997-98, and we speak from the heart. Thank you and God bless.
Wow. Get all this stuff out there. But get over here, Reid.
All right.
Let me tell you, you've gone through all the things this last year as governor-elect. You've prepared yourself. You've prepared your team. You've gone through all the training. You've been back in Indianapolis. You are envied by all the other 45 governors of this great Kiwanis International.
Very honored.
And I want to tell you right now, it looks like you have a great team out there. You've prepared them well. You're ready to go. And it's really a pleasure. You are the second black sheep now to come on as a governor.
Great.
And we're proud of you and Kathy, and we think it's just going to be a great, great year that we're coming up. And so as a past governor of the California, Nevada, Hawaii District of Kiwanis International, it gives me great pleasure to install you as governor of the 1997, 1997,
That's all right.
98. Well, I was only 10 years old.
That's your year.
As governor of the California, Nevada, Hawaii District, Kiwanis International, it's going to be great. And
I want to say just a few words. Bob is so right. We've been preparing for this, and I've been telling family and friends for almost 2 years we're going to be governor and first lady of the Cal Neva District. And now, tonight, brings it into reality. And I stand here with a very grateful heart. You are our family, and we are looking forward to working with you and serving you from our hearts.
And there is that pin that says governor.
It is a great honor for me to introduce this governor. Will you please join me in welcoming District Governor W. Reid Allen, Jr. Yep.
Good morning to you all, our Kiwanis family. I am so proud to stand before you as your governor to welcome you to this, our 78th District Convention. I now officially open the first general session of your 78th District Convention.
Again, I want to thank Hilding for providing those videos. It was quite a walk through Reid's past over the different offices that he had in Kiwanis. Another item I want to share at this point is, and it's been mentioned, that we do have a scholarship that's been set up through the Cal Neva Children's Fund to honor Reid in his memory. And if you haven't been to the website, this is what it looks like. We actually have hit the goal. There's a matching amount that hasn't been recorded yet. So the $10,000 goal has been reached, but we're still hoping to get some more donations. You can also read some of the people who have made donations and made comments. Some have left some very long and personal messages in memory of Reid that you might want to check out if nothing else. But we have met the goal, but we want to beat the goal. This year, the CNH Children's Fund, we've set some goals and we beat them every time. So, and we're still on pace to keep that going. So that's the website. I think the link was put in the chat box. If you want to, it's also, I believe, on the flyer that we set out. So if you have an interest in supporting Reid and a donation to his memorial scholarship, please do so. All right. Next up, we have, again, in 2013, when he was celebrating his 90th birthday, Reid also had a chance to ride on the Rose Float. And I was able to track down a video that actually, he was not on the camera side. So he wasn't on the main camera side for the big networks. And so this I found on YouTube, and he's sitting next to Miss Wheelchair California. They shared a wheelchair on the float, but they're on the non-camera side. So. All right. I got one more short one, then we'll take some more comments from the group. As president of the CNH Children's Fund, I felt that Reid had promoted the Rose Float for so many years, was known international as the primary promoter for the Rose Float Project and the Rose Parade. So I asked the executive committee of the foundation to approve renaming the Kiwanis International Rose Float Fellowship to the W. Reid Allen Jr. Memorial Rose Float Fellowship. And today I'm going to present the first recipient of that fellowship. And that fellowship goes to the Ridnor family. They were the first to make a donation that went to this renamed fellowship. And it's available for members, families, clubs. This all goes into a fund that will help pay for the Rose Float project in future years. So, Doug, I want to congratulate you on being the first recipient of the W. Reid Allen Jr. Memorial Rose Float Fellowship. And if you'd like to say some words, I'd be happy to allow you some time.
Well, thank you. It's Reid was very special to me, like all of you. I mean, I led the Rose Float feeding for Division 16 for 20 years. Why? Because Reid asked me. If Reid asked me to do anything, I'd do it for him. He's always was a great person, mentor, and everything. And so we were really privileged to do this donation. And 20 years, my family's been involved with the Rose Float feeding. Every year they come down and help decorate and feed and everything. So all because of Reid. So thank you, Reid.
Thank you, Doug. All right, let's continue with some of the other comments from people who are attending. The next one on my list is Mark Fernandez. If you're there, Mark, if you'll unmute.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Mark.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Mark Fernandez. If those of you who don't know me, I share in Kayla's situation. I used to be the Pasadena City College president from 2016 to 2017, but I was also the Go West chair from 2015 to 2016. I know that everyone here has shared their experiences and have shared of how much of a great man Mr. Reid Allen was. So I don't think I need to reiterate anyone's points, but I will share two experiences that I've had with Mr. Reid Allen. My first experience was when I was a Kiwanis family chair, and I was it was my first meeting with Pasadena Kiwanis. First of all, I didn't know where to park, so I kind of like went around the city, kind of like trying to find the meeting. When I actually found the meeting, and I entered the room, I met a bunch of amazing Kiwanians, but I saw this man sitting in the corner of the room with in a wheelchair. And I remember in my mind, someone telling me, "You have to meet Mr. Reid Allen." And I'm like, "Is that who I think it is?" So I sit down and I start speaking to him, and he says, "What's your name, young man?" And he grabs my hand and starts shaking it, and he wouldn't let go until I told him my name and a little bit about myself. And that was my very first experience meeting Mr. Reid Allen, just a very kind and warm person. The second experience was when I actually had to run the Go West event for, the club. And Mr. Reid Allen was the first person that I went to for some guidance. And mind you, I've never ran an event as big as Go West, but this great man helped me have the confidence in myself to run such an event and run a successful event, not only that year, but the year after that. So Mr. Reid Allen, I'm very grateful for everything that he has done for not only myself, but for the club and for the entire city of Pasadena and for the entire organization. Thank you everyone for hearing what I have to say, and thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mark. All right, then next, Dave Wallach would like to speak a little bit about Reid and his ride on the Rose Float experience. Go ahead, Dave. Dave, we're not hearing you.
You need to unmute, Dave.
There we go, finally. All right, so for Reid, it was quite an interesting experience being able to be on the float. The day before when we did our judging, Reid was seated perfectly up on front of the float, camera side up on the bench. Phoenix had lifted him up on a scissor lift and placed him on that seat. And we were told for the day of the parade, the same thing would occur. Well, 5 o'clock next morning, 6 o'clock the next morning, and we have no way of getting Reid up onto there. And no one's made any arrangements. And now we've got to think quick, what are we going to do? So we brought Reid around to the other side of the float. This wheelchair had a custom built, elongated wheelchair built. So I said, "Reid, you ready for your new ride?" He said, "Sure." So I physically picked him up, placed him on the float, got him all situated, and that's Reid's ride down Colorado Boulevard, celebrating it. So I could tell you that Reid, as many have said, he's like your second father. I first met Reid back in 1999. I attended my first convention, and Charlie Huff comes to me and says, "You need to meet someone." And here comes this gentleman in a red jacket, bellowing voice. And he has been my mentor for Rose Float, and anything and everything that I have ever done for Rose Float. is because of Reid. As I say, Reid was the rose among a number of our thorns. So he's missed dearly, but I know that he's probably building a lot of Rose Float clubs up in heaven. So we miss you dearly.
All right. Thanks, Dave. John Brummer, we'd like to hear from you next.
Thank you, Craig. I'm speaking on behalf of Ray Whitby Brummer, past governor of the district. I'm her husband, but we would like to express our condolences to Kathy and everyone that knew Reid. Also, you see my picture, the key? The key was Reid Allen. He supported our Key Club, Circle K, Builders, Key Wins, K Kids, you name it. He was there for the kids. He was there for us too. When Ray was elected Lieutenant Governor-elect and governor, he was the first one to call us, probably 5 minutes after she took office. That was amazing. And this is a strange thing for me. When my parents died, Reid called me. He didn't know my parents. I met him in 1992 when I first served as lieutenant governor under John Roberto. He remembered me and he said a friend told him my parents died, but he wanted to call me and say how sorry he and Kathy were that happened. Also, when I had my stroke 6 years ago, he did the same thing. My first call when I got home was Reid. Reid, I think, owned Pac Bell, but we're going to miss him. He's a father to me like everybody else. Reid, we love you and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, John. Next up, we've got a representative from the Tournament of Roses. Reid was in the tournament for many, many years, and I had a very nice conversation with one of their representatives last night. Her name is Jeanette Collier. So Jeanette, if you'd like to speak on behalf of the Tournament of Roses and what Reid meant to that organization.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to share and to speak. I'm hearing, so many wonderful things about Reid and just reminding me the amazing, magnificent person that he has been in my life, particularly. I met Reid 25 years ago on my first year at the Rose Parade. And then subsequent years after that, he became my contact for the Kiwanis float and guiding that float down the parade route and through its events throughout the year. Reid Allen was just full of heart. When he entered those doors at the Tournament of Roses offices, he just lit up our lives. We felt like light was really being let into the building. Smiles on all of our faces. I would love to have him sit in my office and just share stories with me, share history with me, some of his Navy years, and he would share with me with wholehearted confidence and just honesty. And I just felt like I was talking to my dad. And I mentioned with him that when my dad passed away, I felt like he took that place. And he fills my heart with love to this day. One of my most favorite memories is I felt that it was my duty. Every year for the Rose Parade, I would host the military generals that would come and support the Rose Parade and the Rose Bowl game. And after their first quarter festivities on the Rose Bowl field, I would make sure that we walked up Tunnel 19 so we could greet Reid and Kathy sitting at the top of Tunnel 19 and have an annual picture with those military generals. And I could see Reid's tear in his eye as, he was posing for that photo. And he would undoubtedly call me the very next day at Tournament of Roses and say, My dear friend Jeanette, you have no idea what you did for me. Thank you so much. That made my year. And I said, no, Reid, it's what you do for us all year long. And it's my pleasure. And I feel like it's an honor. I just want to say on behalf of the Tournament of Roses that Reid is our heart. We are a Tournament of Roses family, much like Kiwanis is a family. And he is just the most cherished, treasured member of our family. And we will have him in our memory and in our hearts forever. And Kathy, we love you and we will support you every step of the way. So thank you and God's blessings.
All right. Thank you, Jeanette. I'm going to run one last set of pictures and then we'll have another chance for anybody to make comments. These are some pictures that came in just recently. They span quite a range of Reid's life, starting off with the picture in the Navy with, I guess, one of his close friends. Here he is, his installation as Lieutenant Governor at the District Convention. And it's another group of Kiwanis ladies who all were at another convention, no doubt. This is during a Montreal site visit. I'm not sure where this was. I think this was taken from his house, and obviously it was probably at some international convention, but I didn't get any information to explain what it is. But that was another picture that was set in. This is from the Gooden School, where he attended a Christmas luncheon. This is the 4 millionth quarter at the Miracle Mile of Quarters that Reid attended for that group. Yeah, this was another picture from Reid's birthday party that came in a little later with Pete and Diane. There's another one that was at that same event with Kathy as well. And there's Trina at the birthday party. And there's Tom DiGiulio. Now, Tom said he couldn't make it, but he sent a little letter, and I'll just read it briefly. He just said he had a conflict tomorrow afternoon and regrettably wasn't able to view the memorial tribute to dear friend Reid Allen. I'm attaching two of my favorite photos if you wish to use them. The 2013 Rose Float will remain a highlight in my Kiwanis life for several reasons. One, the Kiwanis won the well-earned Tournament Volunteers Trophy for Best Floral Design of Parade Theme under 35 feet in length for a child magic carpet ride. Number two, I had the honor of accompanying Reid as first-timers riding a Rose Parade float. At the end of the parade, Reid had no choice but to wait for physical assistance to arrive before he could disembark. Because anxious parade officials could not wait for his wheelchair to arrive, the float continued on for blocks and blocks, with Reid sitting alone on board. I watched as he calmly and proudly took a solo journey on his well-deserved magic carpet ride. And three, inspired and supported by Reid, Key Club volunteers were branded for the first time with t-shirts, making them recognizable for the thousands watching the creation of many floats they were working on. Most important of all, Rosemary and I were blessed with the loving friendship of a man, an icon of Kiwanis service leadership, who will remain forever in our hearts. And that was from past International President Tom DiGiulio. And this is one of the pictures that he sent in. And this was the other one he sent in with he and Reid on the float. And you got some other pictures. He is on the float on the day of the parade. And there's with one of our members, Jeannie and Stephanie Edwards. These are the pictures that Jeanette was talking about, where she brought the military personnel up to meet with Reid at during the Rose Bowl games. Got a couple more here. Probably a little more recently. I think this was the 2018 Rose Bowl game where he was visited by the generals here. And one more picture. This, I think, was at the last International President's Luncheon that the Pasadena Club hosted in 2019, where Reid was attending with his friend, Jimmy Weldon. This was in March, taken from Reid's home. And then one of the last pictures is right around Christmas time with him and Kathy also at their home. So let's see what else I've got in store. All right, I think now we have, anybody else wants to speak, I've got two more names that I was holding off on. Mel Matthews, would you like to give us a few words? And if anybody else wants to be added in, put your name in the chat and we'll add you to the list as we wrap this up.
Yes, thank you, Craig. I just wanted to say from my very first meeting at Pasadena Kiwanis, Reid instantly became my mentor along with Kathy on what it was to be a Kiwanian as well as service to the community. And I enjoyed sitting with him and chatting with him at many of our luncheons. And he was particularly interested in Donna's blindness and her service dog Sadie, and encouraged us to even to do a presentation at a meeting. And we always enjoyed those Christmas pears. And I don't know how many others he sent them to, but it was very special. We miss you, Reid, and God bless everyone, including Kathy. It's good to see you on the meeting.
Thank you, Mel. All right, Jeannie, you'd like to say something?
Hello, Kathy. Hello, Lily. And Jeanette beat me to it in line. Yes, I grew up with Reid, literally. My grandfather, my uncle, and my dad were all tournament members. So I knew him first as a white suitor. And also with the Rose Float, with my participation in decorating and then being a white suitor and being a gatekeeper down at Rosemont. But also Kiwanis because my grandfather and my uncle were Kiwanians. So he was tournament first. Yay. This is really hard, obviously. Hold on, for everybody. I can do that. He will be missed, but he lives on in all of our hearts. And we just need to remember that when times get tough, when we want to kind of smack somebody upside the top of their head, to just smile and remember that we are servants. We are here to give and not to receive. And by doing that, we receive the greatest gift. So there you go, folks.
All right, thanks, Jeannie. George Van Alstine, I see your name in the list. Like
yeah, hi from Altadena, Crown City, and Connie Devon is also on here. Just for me, Reid Allen is Kiwanis. For most of the 40, I think 7 years I've been a member, he's represented what Kiwanis is all about. I just want to say that Bill Tima, who has moved to Michigan, called me last week, and he would love to be remembered because of his close relationship with all you guys. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak before we wrap this up? All right, I've got lined up here one last tribute to Reid. It just seemed like an appropriate song for his memory.
came by today to see you. Oh, I had to let you know. If I knew the last time that I held you was the last time, I'd have held you and never let go. Oh, it's kept me awake nights wondering. I lie in the dark just asking why. I've always been told you won't be called home until it's your time. I guess heaven was needing a hero, somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for what you believe and follow it through. When I try to make it make sense in my mind, the only conclusion I come to is heaven was needing a hero like I remember the last time I saw you. Oh, you held your head up proud. I laughed inside when I saw how you were standing out in the crowd. You're such a part of who I am. Now that part will just be void. No matter how much I need you now, heaven needed you more. 'Cause heaven was needing a hero, somebody just like you, brave enough to stand up for what you believe and follow it through. When I try to make it make sense in my mind, the only conclusion I come to is heaven was needing a hero like you. Yes, heaven was needing a hero, and that's you.
Well, I want to thank everyone for attending today. I know we all had special thoughts for Reid, and we'll miss him dearly. I, just like everybody else, there were times where he encouraged me to do things in Kiwanis I thought I'd never do. He actually nominated me to be on the foundation board the first year that I tried to get on there. I wasn't selected for the original ballot, but he nominated me from the floor. And not only I was nominated from the floor, but also Pete Edwards. And I'm drawing a blank.
Craig is the
Knight, Oscar Knight. And all three of us were write-in candidates, and we were all elected to the foundation board. And from that group of write-ins, we ended up with 2 past governors and 2 foundation presidents. So again, that was all Reid's encouragement on my part to make me consider those higher positions in Kiwanis. Jody, you had something you want to add?
yeah, just as the current president of the Pasadena Club, you know, I want to thank Craig for all his efforts and the hard work he did to put this together. And you know, I only knew Craig for about Reid for 9 years, but he's one that I can only reiterate what everybody has said here today. The impact he had on all of us was great. But I think the biggest tribute to Reid is each and every one of you today coming here because of the importance of it and sharing what you've shared and just letting everybody know how important he was to us. And he will be missed, but he will not be forgotten. So thank you to Reid and thank you, Craig, for all your hard work for this today.
All right. Thank you, Jody. With that, we will end the presentation and hope to see everybody again soon on a more happier note. Bye all.